episode of Asexualite, my asexual life. This is the place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual. I share my asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. If you haven't already subscribed, hit that great big subscribe button right here, right now. Please hit that bell icon so you get notified of every time I go live like now or post a new video. I did intend to do this on my iPad, but for some reason it won't let me go live on my iPad anymore. So anyway, I'm here on my phone. So if you didn't know who I am Sandra Bellamy. I'm author of this awesome Asexual Perspectives 47 Asexual Stories, but go and grab a copy now if you haven't already done so. So today's video I want to discuss an important topic that is asexuality is not a medical condition and you can't make yourself be asexual. So in the last few days, I've had 3 profiles. I say profiles, 3 people, although one could have two profiles, asking me about the same thing, and that is, can you make yourself asexual? So these people have got problems with sexual urges, and they think asexuality is the answer. So in order to stop the sexual urges, they want to know how to make themselves asexual. You can't make yourself be asexual. These people have seen my video about castration, about impotency, about circumcision. Now, castration, impotency, and circumcision are all medical issues, right? So circumcision is when someone's basically some penis has got their foreskin whopped off, to be quite blunt with you. Impotency is when the penis can't get erect, if it's a male. And then, and if, castration is when they have an operation. Down below, right? So any of those things, if you do them, they are medical procedures. Asexuality is a sexual orientation that's a lack of sexual attraction, right? In the main, we don't get those urges in the first place. That's the whole point of asexuality, is we don't get the need, urge, or want for partnered sexual intercourse. There may be some asexuals that say they want to have sex, but those people largely are either on the grey end of the asexual spectrum, where they do experience sexual attraction under limited, rare, or specific circumstances, but not enough to want to act on it, or they experience it, they either experience it in limited, rare, or specific circumstances, or they experience it but not enough to want to act on it. So some asexuals do get sexual urges, but the difference is, usually with asexuals, we'd rather take care of those urges ourselves, right? But through masturbation, something like that, right? Or just carrying on doing projects and different things. So asexuality is not about repression. It's not about repressing your feelings, suppressing them, stopping urges, or anything like that. Asexuality, in general terms, is a lack of sexual attraction, which means we don't get the need, urge, or want for partnered sexual intercourse in the first place, right? And lots of asexuals, if they do want sex, it's usually to do with the connection the sex brings rather than the sex itself. They could usually do without it themselves, because they're doing it for either connection with the partner or to please the partner because they're in a relationship with a sexual person. They don't mind it. They'll just do it. Some like it as an activity to do, like a board game, that type of thing. But they're coming from a different place, right? Heterosexuals get the need, urge, or want for partner sexual intercourse. You have intense, sometimes sexual urges to have sex, but some asexuals can still have sexual urges, just it doesn't go towards anyone. That's the kind of point. It's like, if you're a single person, right, and you're asexual, in broad terms, you lack sexual attraction. If you lack sexual attraction, you don't get that need, urge, or want to have partnered sexual intercourse. If you get any sex drive urges, you would, just deal with that yourself, right? So asexuality doesn't stop people feeling aroused. It doesn't stop people having sex drives in some way, because some asexuals have a sex drive but they don't aim it at anyone, basically. But a lot of asexuals don't have a need, desire, urge, or want for sex whatsoever, right? But they were usually born that way and didn't realize it, right? It's a sexual orientation. It's not asexuality. It's not something you can make yourself be, or try on for size, or put a coat on, or anything like that. I don't understand lately why there's been people in my inbox and on even this channel saying about making themselves asexual. That's just like a lesbian can't make themselves heterosexual. A guy who's gay can't make himself a heterosexual, right? You can't change your sexual orientation by force. It doesn't work like that, right? Impotency is to do with a medical condition. Circumcision is to do with a medical procedure because of some condition, right? And castration again is a medical procedure. Asexuality isn't a medical problem. It isn't a medical procedure. It's a sexual orientation. I don't know how much more I can tell you that it's a sexual orientation, which is the lack of sexual attraction, right? I don't know why people keep trying to force the issue of saying, oh, I want to make myself asexual. You can't make yourself be asexual. It's not a trend. It's not a coat you can put on. It's not something you can try on for size. It's not a pill. It's not a remedy. Do you know what I mean? It's not a medical condition. It's a sexual orientation. And the fact that, if you've got a problem with sexual urges, you need to go to see a sex therapist, right? At the end of the day, you need to go and see a sex therapist for a medical problem that you've got sexual urges that are bothering you. Lots of people have sexual urges, but they're not bothered by them. They either sort it out themselves, or in a heterosexual relationship, they'd likely have sex. Some people watch porn, right? I don't do that, but there you go, So if you want to control your sexual urges, like, go to a sex therapist, or see other videos on YouTube telling you how to control your sexual urges. I mean, when you're controlling sexual urges, you either have to let it out in some way, or you're gonna have to, like, if you want to repress and suppress, it's not great, but or you just think of other things. Just go and do some activity and stuff, because if you are focusing on your if you're focusing on your genitalia all the time, then clearly you're probably a bit bored with your life. So go and get involved in creative projects. Go and join meetup groups where you can do art or pottery or sport. Go to a gym so you can let all that energy out. Let the sexual energy out in other ways. There's plenty of videos on YouTube saying how to deal with sexual energy, right? So, what I mean? Go and do that, right? Asexuality, people are happy to be or not to be, as the case might be, right? But, if you're not happy because you're experiencing sexual urges, you know how to control them and stop them, then it's stuff you need to work on. You need to go to a medical practitioner for that, such as a sex therapist or a doctor, and go and speak to them about it and see what you can do about it. It's not about forcing yourself to be asexual, pretending to be asexual, then getting in asexual groups to pretend, oh, I'm really here in disguise, but I'm trying to control my sexual urges, so I'll go in asexual groups or force my way into an asexual community. I mean, it's ridiculous. That's just like me trying to, like, pretend I'm a heterosexual when I know I'm not. I thought I was heterosexual for years. That's different, right? So asexuality is not a medical condition. It's not something wrong. It's not a medical cure either, right? You can't go and be asexual and then, oh, right, I'm asexual now, so it's cured my sexual urges. Like I said, some asexuals, they still get aroused. Some asexuals still have, some have still a sex drive. Some still have sexual urges, but it's usually not aimed at anyone. A lot don't, but that's how they naturally are. That's their natural state. They're not forcing it. They're not suppressing it or repressing it or trying to stop it in some way. Do you know what I mean? If anything, they want to get it out. So the asexuals that I've come across, if they have arousal, they usually want to relieve themselves of that arousal because it's a sexual feeling in some way that it's like kind of like, oh my god, this is happening, let's just get rid of it. You know what I mean? Because they're not bothered by it, as in They'd rather just get on with their life and just to relieve the arousal feeling and get on with their life. So I find it quite interesting and a bit disturbing as to why so many heterosexuals keep coming to me lately, starting to, like, you know, say stuff like, oh, if I'm castrated, if I'm circumcised or whatever, will I, you know, will that make me asexual? You can't make yourself be asexual. If you have lost sexual urges and sexual desire because you've had a medical procedure, that doesn't make you asexual. Asexuality is a genuine sexual orientation that's a lack of sexual attraction. I've come across someone in the asexual community before now who did have like a castration, and clearly his mind was completely different to asexuals, and he was very much out of place, and you know, and his attitude was not good because he didn't think like an asexual. His attitude wasn't like an asexual. His persona wasn't, and he kind of like was angry a lot of the time. You know, he's angry at people. He's angry at any asexuals that were different to him. Like, oh, I've had castration, so I don't feel any need anymore. But some asexuals are not like me. So, you know what I mean? It's just like, but he had a medical procedure that stopped him be able to have sex, basically. You know what I mean? And it's what I picked up from him was lots of frustration. And basically that he'd lost his sex drive through castration, but really, you know, he was very frustrated about the whole situation, not happy with it, you know, and then coming to say he was asexual, right? Which, you know, genuine asexuals have got a completely different mindset. Usually, they're wired differently, they think differently, they are different. When my Asexual Guide to Sex book comes out, you'll be able to see how different we really are, you know. So I always want to take this opportunity to say you cannot make yourself asexual. Asexuality is a genuine sexual orientation that's a lack of sexual attraction, and we don't get the need, urge, or want for partner sexual intercourse in the main. We don't have those urges. We're not suppressing or repressing them. And for asexuals that do experience arousal or urges, they just get rid of it usually by themselves, and it's no big deal. We don't stress over things like that, right? Usually, you know, there's a few asexuals that get frustrated that they get aroused, but obviously they don't want to have sex and they're not interested in anyone like that, and they find it hard to relieve the arousal themselves because it's not natural for them to be aroused, in the sense that, you know, they're not wired to be aroused towards a specific person. So if arousal feelings occur in their body, it can be hard to get rid of them if they're not sexual orientated, you know, because it can be like, oh, do I have to touch myself? Yeah, okay, let's get on with it. And then it can be like hard to get yourself in the mood or get the right position or do the right thing to relieve that arousal, because it's like you try everything but you're not really a sexual being. So it's like doing something to get rid of something in order to get on with your life when really it's not natural to you, and so you don't naturally feel that way, so you kind of are pushing yourself to get rid of it, if it were. So if anything, if asexuals were pushing anything, it'd be to get rid of sexual you know, to get rid of sexual urges themselves or arousal feelings themselves, you know. But the whole point is we don't suppress and repress that. We try and get as much stuff out of us as possible if we do have stuff like that, you know. Or we go off and do projects and plow our energies into other things that are more meaningful with our life, you know, and be very productive. So anyway, you can't make yourself be asexual. It's a genuine sexual orientation. And if you're experiencing sexual urges, go and see a therapist, a doctor, a medical practitioner, because I'm a coach. I'm not actually any of those. I'm not a medical practitioner, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a sex therapist. So anyway, I hope I've made this absolutely categorically clear now that asexuality is a sexual orientation that's a lack of sexual attraction and or little to no interest in sexual activities, if you want the full definition. Right? So yes, you cannot make yourself be asexual. That is like impossible. Right? You know, just like a lesbian can't make themselves interested in guys. Right? Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you have. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that great big notification button to get notified of every time I go live like now, post a new video. Lots of love. Take care, and I'll see you soon.